Hello and welcome to the SDM Foundation's video for October of 2022, which will be about browsers, internet browsers. So, what is an internet browser? To name a few examples before I describe what it is, they are things like Internet Explorer, which is a thing of the past in a way, Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, Safari, and Firefox, Mozilla Firefox, and there's many others. We're only going to be going over a few of the examples in detail, and mainly just Google Chrome. But now that I've given you some examples, let me explain what they are, which is an internet browser. And it is software that allows you on a device that has the ability to connect to a network that allows you to get on the internet. This software then allows you to go to different places on the internet. Why don't we start by looking at Safari so I can explain in better detail what an internet browser is. So this is a screenshot I took of Safari, and this is what it looks like when it is open in full screen on a Mac. And this is one that may be a bit differently laid out than some others, just because it is on a Mac. So it might look different from what you're used to on a PC and just has things in a bit of a different location. So, as I said, an internet browser allows you to go to places on the internet. And what I mean by that are domain names or website names. So if you know that there is a website that you want to go to, such as Amazon.com or SDMFoundation.org, typing in that address in the address bar here, or the URL bar, that will take you to that address. So that's why here it says search or enter website name, because if you know the actual name, it will just take you to that website. And if you aren't sure and you want to do a search, then you can just enter anything and then search for that. That is a newer feature to browsers that was initially something you needed to go to a specific search engine's website to do, but now search engines are often built into browsers, because internet browsers, like everything else, are prone to improvement and changes over time, and that is one quality of life improvement that has happened over the past, within the past 10-15 years, I would say. And it has led to a little bit of confusion, though, because this URL bar now is not exactly just a URL bar. As I just explained, you're able to use it as a search engine. So it is something that was pretty easy to just say this is its purpose. Its one purpose is to enter a location, so a website's name, and then you will go to that website. But now that it has this added feature, it's sort of a quasi URL bar / search bar, or search area, search engine text entry location, if I wanted to be very technical about it. Basically, it's where you type where you want to go or what you're looking for if you're searching for something. And that applies to other internet browsers, such as Microsoft Edge. So if we take a look at this, we see that it has an extremely similar sort of thing going on, right? We've got an address bar up top. We've got some shortcuts to websites right here, and then some automated media from Microsoft, who is the company that creates the software, Microsoft Edge. The URL bar up here actually says exactly the same thing: search or enter web address. If we go back to Safari, search or enter website name. Slightly different, basically the same thing. And favorites, so websites that I've designated to be bookmark and put in the favorites category, frequently visited, as well as privacy report, just generally information that Safari has about any sort of tracking and processing of data that is known about, gets sent to you in a privacy report. And other browsers use functions like that as well as accounts that you may have, like a Google account. And then a reading list, which would be saved articles or saved pages, similar to bookmarks, but with more of a temporary purpose. So one thing that's going to differ from Safari to others that I forgot to touch on, but I brought up, was this bar up here. So this is how Mac computers handle accessing various settings. So I know a lot of people will understand if I mention the 3 dots in the top right, which we don't have in Safari. But the 3 dots is something you often come across that means more options. And that is sort of taken care of by already having various categories here that will give you more options to choose from in terms of settings or anything related to what could be tied to your use of a browser, such as history, browsing history, bookmarks, which would favorites fall under that category. Help, so information about how Safari works or if you're running into a problem. View, which would change various aspects of the layout of Safari. Edit, which is going to have things like cut, copy, paste, etc. File, which allows you to save websites as shortcuts, print a web page if you wanted to do that. And then Safari would take you into or would bring up the option to go to specific preferences or settings for Safari in a deeper manner. And then the Apple is always there, and that is a Mac feature. That's how you get to switch users, log off, shut down, restart, things like that. So, like I said, the 3 dots is how you'll see that with most browsers, Safari being the exception in that case. Most browsers will have something like this that allows you to get into those deeper ways to customize your browsing experience, or to look at history, or to go into settings, So this is an example of what settings in Edge looks like, and it is going to be a very similar layout to how it would be in Google Chrome. And I would imagine most browsers will have more similarities than differences, and this is just one example of that. As much as it might not seem like it, these tech companies are truly trying to make things as intuitive and easy for the user as possible, while still maintaining capitalistic ideals, such as intellectual property, things that they don't want to share, stuff like that. But for the sake of the user, you will often find similar layouts and experiences across different mediums. So if you have if you're used to something in one internet browser, you can probably find a very similar way to get that same function or action or whatever you're used to doing a certain way. You can probably do it the same way, if not extremely similar. Or perhaps like if you were to go into settings for Safari, you would have to go about it in a slightly different way than just looking for the 3 dots in the top right. Excuse me. So, a second thing that is in common between Edge and Chrome and a lot of browsers is that you can have a profile attached to the browser, meaning that whenever you go on the browser, you can choose which profile will be currently active, and everything that you do while using the browser will be tied to that account. And then you can sync it across devices, meaning that any sort of saved websites, history, passwords, anything that I do when using Edge, which would be synced to this account here, which would mean if I went onto another computer and opened Edge and then connected this account, it would populate all of my information onto it as long as I have sync turned on. This also applies to mobile devices, so as long as the device is able to get that software or application, then it's something that you can attach or sign into and then have your account information recreated on the new device. And like I said, this is something that applies to Google as well. And this is what it looks like when you're using a guest profile. So this is something that you can do, I'm sure, in Edge as well. See, browse as a guest. But in this case, I am just browsing with my personal email, which I will blur out. And as a guest, there's not exactly many restrictions, but there will be a lot less customization because it's only going to last as long as the current session. So I could change, certain things about, like I don't even know if it will let me save a website. Let's see if I can just go to google.com, and no. So the typical way to make a favorite or create a bookmark with Google Chrome is not there. So that's just to prevent you from even thinking that this is something that's going to stay, because it will not. It will end as soon as the session is closed. So why don't I go ahead and actually open up a different Google Chrome session. And this is one that is tied to my work profile. And so here, as soon as I open it up, there is a clear difference. There's, it's got a background already. I have, saved information. It's, wants me to potentially open things from my drive. And it has my saved bookmarks up here. And it has my profile picture, signifying that I am signed into a profile. So something else that is typical of browsers these days and is important to understand is that when you first open the browser, it's going to be in a sort of quasi state where it's not exactly on a web page, and it might seem like it's connected, or it will allow you to go to websites like it's on the internet, but it might not be. And that is because internet browsers now open up to what is often called the new tab page. And that's actually what it says right up here in the top left of the Google Chrome browser. And let's see what Edge says if we were to go back. Yeah, this is the new tab page. Oh, this is Google Chrome still. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and open up Microsoft Edge. And yes, this is also called the new tab page. What used to open up was the home page. The home page is still something that exists. in most browsers, and you can still set things to be the home page, but that is not all that useful anymore. And as you can see here, it looks like the home button by default is off, but what you're able to do is set an address to be your home button, meaning, or used to mean, that that's what your internet browser would open up to, as well as what the button would go to when hit. So now that I've turned that on, there is a home button here, which wouldn't take me anywhere because there is no set URL yet. But I sort of just utilized one feature in settings to find that I may as well go over, because it's a very useful feature to know about and utilize. So both in Edge and in Chrome, within settings, there is a search bar, and that is specifically going to search settings. So since I knew that home button was probably something that I could turn on or customize, I just typed home, and there it is, highlighted for me, and it's exactly what I was looking for. And if I were to do the same thing in Google Chrome, I get the same result, and it's actually the exact same at the moment. Disabled, but if I were to turn it on, it would probably have me choose a website to have be my home page. So the reason why you may appear to be on a network when you open up your browser and are just on a new tab would be because you might see information, like it might still have this. You know, Safari would probably still show my favorites in the reading list, but as soon as I were to try and click on one or go to a website, I wouldn't be able to go there because I wouldn't have access to the internet. So it may be deceiving sometimes. That's just a little bit of a side note. And the reason why, or what a new tab page is, or a new tab page already existed while home page was still the thing that internet browsers opened up to. And as soon as we go to a website like sdmfoundation.org, now that's where we are, and it no longer says new tab up in the top left. But something that is important to note is that this here itself is a tab. Now, tab can have all sorts of meanings, but this is a case where it is trying to recreate one tab that we all know of that is not digital. Tabs on folders, you know, the little part you grab, which looks very much like this, or like the top of the File Explorer icon here, the tabs on these folders, okay? So that is what this is. It's a tab. And this plus button, as I hover over it, it says in the tooltip, new tab. That's exactly what the button will do. So let's just say that, you know, this is my home page, right? This is how I open up, and then if I wanted to go to a new page, I could just, you know, leave this page and enter a new address, or I could open up a new tab. And this will always say new tab because it's blank. It's a blank slate that will allow you to go to any website, or in this case, as you know, nowadays you could search for it as well. And that applies to, once again, multiple browsers. That applies to Safari, but the plus is over here, and then it would recreate this. And in Microsoft Edge, let's go ahead and just go to office.com. I'll hit plus, and boom, we have recreated that original new tab that will open when you open your browser by default. And this is switching between the tabs in Microsoft Edge. So this is something important to understand, because it is a great way to maximize your time while using the computer and browsing the internet. So let's just say, for example, I wanted to take a few things from the SDM Foundation and save them together. So let's see. Why don't I go to Chromebook as a category in our blog, and I will open up a few articles, and here we go. I have some articles right here. So that allows me to switch between the different information that I want to access. So let's say I was, taking notes. It's going to open up the wrong thing. Oops. Let's say I was taking notes. Go to Docs, open up a blank document, and then say notes about book. Right? And then I could say, oh, okay, what can Chromebooks do and what can't they? Get some information about them, and then jot some notes down. And then I could switch over to a different article and get information from that. Although this one is a little bit, so I would find the Chromebook specific information and take that down because, hypothetically I'm taking notes about Chromebooks. And so this is one way to utilize tabs to maximize efficiency and production, save yourself time, and not lose things. You could do the same with Windows, which you're able to actually drag tabs out and make them windows, but it is a lot more cluttered and chaotic to switch between windows than tabs. So now why don't I go ahead and put these back all together as one. Cool. And there we go. So much neater, much cleaner. So another thing that I've touched on is favorites. And with the guest example, I was saying that the favorites button or the bookmark button is gone. However, once I'm in a profile, the bookmark button is there. And just like with any button, when you're hovering over it, it will give you a little tooltip that explains what it does. So this will bookmark the tab if I were to choose this. So why don't we go ahead and do that? I'm going to bookmark the tab and I'm going to say Chromebook Notes Example. And I'm going to choose where I want to save that. So all bookmarks function in a similar way, where you are able to make folders within the built-in folder that it already has, which will be bookmarks. And I think in this case, other bookmarks was also something that came by default. So if I choose bookmarks bar as to select that and then say new folder, it will create a subfolder. And then I can call that Chromebook Notes and article, or etc. So I'm going to save articles in there too. So now that is, see, so now it says edit bookmark. So that's because it's already been bookmarked. And if I go to these pages, they are not. But if I hit the bookmark button, it will allow me to add it. So it chooses the same folder that I just had. So I'm just going to go ahead and say done for each of these. I'm going to add them to that same folder, which you can actually see here. So this is already saved as bookmark. I think in a different folder. Actually, no, as just my first bookmark standalone. But these are all the things that I saw when I was looking at bookmarks. So if I go to the Bookmark Manager, it shows me a bigger version of the locations for where I can store my bookmarks, right? And so this right now, since I'm selecting the bookmark bar, it shows whatever I have selected. It is showing the exact same things that are up here, right here, because this itself is the bookmark bar. And so I can move these things around and it reflects in both locations. So something that is that I recently found out, just to sort of continue with this this same theme of maximizing, your time and efficiency, and understanding some not so understood or maybe easily overlooked aspects of using an internet browser. Let's talk about grouping tabs in Google Chrome. So this is something that you can use extensions for, or there's certain websites like OneTab, which is also an extension that does something similar. But when you have things existing in a folder on your bookmark bar, you can treat it as sort of like a workspace or something that you can condense further to, once again, make things less chaotic and hectic. And why don't I just go ahead and do that and show you what I mean. So right now, if I right click on Chromebook Notes, the folder we just made and put on the bookmark bar with all of these in it, I can then open them all in a new tab group. Okay? And then it creates this little group here that gets designated a color, which I can change. And I can close it, move it to a whole new window, which I actually will do. And then I'll minimize that for 1 second. So I'm going to close this because of what I just did. So because I put everything into a group here, they all exist within this little group. All right. And then I can add a tab to the group if I want. And then does that also, let's see, let's just test something out. So it's not like it's automatically going to put that into the folder, but it does allow you to do a lot more with condensing things and organization. So now that I have the group within a window that has other tabs, I'm able to condense that group. So I can both open and condense it, making all the tabs go back underneath the title of this group. And this is something that you can really use to declutter your desktop and your workspace when you have the need to access a lot of tabs quickly, or you want to reference things without having to go back to them and keep opening them, but making it a bit of an easier process. And that would work for me to do with all of these folders. So let's just say I had a really big project I was working on, or I had a lot of websites that I wanted to refer to, but wanted to do so in a neat manner. This would be an extremely useful way to go about that. And so I haven't found something like that in another browser, but I also haven't really looked for it. I don't use it all that often. I bet you collections could be something similar. And those types of features are the types of things that really allow you to get the most out of anytime you're using an internet browser for any purpose. Oftentimes you might not really need that, but then there are times when you can't remember what that website you were on where you saw that information was, or if you start to research something like I did, you might get a fairly crazy folder going. Is it saved in this one? Must not be. Yeah, so I don't have the example of it here, but I have a folder that is just building and building with the amount of bookmarks that I have saved in it. And what I need to do is, break that down into probably some subfolders and reorganize that. And that will allow me to recall that information and bring back up the sources to refer to it when I am continuing to learn about that topic. Let's see. So I think we're probably getting close to our 30-minute time limit because these go on MMTV. And we have to fill a half-hour time slot. But this is something that I will continue to make videos about because we really only touched the tip of the iceberg, really. There's a lot of things that we can go over. We didn't even really go into all the types of things in settings. We touched on profiles. I really wanted to nail down the idea of addresses, which are the actual places you go to on the internet, as well as how the address / URL bar, URL is just another way to say the address, is now also a search bar. So it's the same as typing in here, but it will also take you directly to a website if you enter it. So like I said, this will be something that there will be more videos on. This is just going to be the first part of probably an ongoing series, sort of like email. And thank you all for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye.